Goldman from the J2C show with your fantasy football update. Now, looking at it, we had a lot of action going on this weekend. A lot of teams are looking at in our league of 14, 1-1. We have 3 that are 2-0 right now. So, in this there's a lot of injuries going on with our players in the NFL. So, it's, week 2, a lot of big players getting hurt. A lot of new players are starting functioning in the lineups. So, there's a lot of things going on. But with your update right now, we have 3 teams that are tied for first. We have Team the Sacco, Team 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and a Legion of 12 sitting at 2-0. Now, that could be due to actually winning or going against teams that are struggling. There are 3 teams that are sitting at the bottom of our 14-team league with a 0-2 record. Now, we'll see. It's early to tell how these teams are going on this early in the season. We won't quite see anything solidify itself until we get at least 6 or 7 weeks in. We can see how things are going. But it is going to be an interesting league. Again, 14 teams, that is a lot of teams in a league. So depth is a big, big thing. And right now, trying to find that depth piece in your team and trying to find those sleepers, trying to find those are going to play big in this league. And so we've had a couple of guys be able to find that. As we look into our matchups, as we go into week 2, our scores. Right now, I lost week 2 to my little brother Henry, and it was a week that was disappointing for my players. As we look in that matchup, welcome the Pound City versus the Motor City White Buffaloes. It was a matchup that he had all his players, his running backs through receivers, other than Bilal Powell, didn't do so hot against Oakland. But that Jets offense is terrible, so right there you knew that anything on that offense is not going to produce. But Derrick Henry had a big game against Jacksonville. Alshon Jeffrey had a huge game against the Kansas City Chiefs, which I didn't think was going to happen. And then he had Nelson. It was kind of a sleeper pick. He had J.J. Nelson for Arizona. That was projected 7, but he put up 18. So that was a big win against Indiana. And again, you could think that Indianapolis got a bad defense, so that matchup's going to be good. But his defense last night was the big key. Lions' defense had a big game against the Giants. And the Giants, even with Odell, now Odell's hurt, so that's definitely going to be a thorn in that Giants offense. But still, you allow 5 sacks, an interception that's returned for a touchdown. Eli Manning, what are you doing? What are you doing? You're killing my team. So that was the big thing. I had 4 players over double digits. Hooper, I thought Hooper was going to have a bigger game. He almost had a touchdown, should have had a touchdown. That would have helped. But looking at my bench, I had a decent amount of bench. I did make some changes. I think I did start Chris Carson this week. I feel confident, even though they're going in and playing a tough Tennessee defense. I think Chris Carson is being productive against teams with good defenses for the Seahawks. And so they're focusing up on Thomas Rawls. Now they're going to focus. And he had 25 carries. So when you give a running back 25 carries and he can get you 3 or 4 yards each carry, that's a good sign. And Chris Carson was making some big plays in that against the Niners, which Niners defense is good. That defensive 7 is stout and it is tough. Where the Niners struggles offensively, of course, they have really no weapons on offense other than Carlos Hyde. But you lose a lot of your offensive linemen. You don't have a quarterback. You don't have any receivers that can stretch the play. It's going to struggle on offense. And plus, you got to play against Seattle, who's got one of the best defenses in the NFL. So that's not going to be a factor. But the defense of the Niners is pretty solid. That defensive 7, you have all first-round guys up there up front. And they made some big plays. They were shutting down Seattle. Offensively, Seattle had a hard time getting anything going. Other than that late touchdown to Paul Richardson to end the game to win it, they were struggling. Now, there was weather issues, it was rain, but when you play in Seattle, you're used to the rain, so that shouldn't be an excuse. So I think Chris Carson's going to come back, and he was very productive. He had 93 yards running, 7 receiving. He had 10 points in fantasy. So, again, we're using NFL.com. We're not using ESPN, even though it's kind of similar. NFL.com is our format. But Chris Carson, he's my big one to get some consistency. He had 9 points in the first week, 10 points. He was projected like 0.5 points. So that's a big improvement. And right now, running back is okay. James White, I didn't have a terrible week other than my tight end and the big one was Jordy Nelson going out in that Atlanta game early with a hamstring. They're still questionable if he's going to play this Sunday, so I'll keep an eye on that. But so if you're listening, all these Jordy Nelson, you're seeing that. We'll keep an eye out because he might play, he might not. And if he does play, they go on and they take on Cincinnati, who's a tough defensive corners. But if he's healthy, that'll help. And I think Green Bay, if he's healthy, then he should be able to go. And I think he'll be productive against Cincinnati. Cincinnati's not that good. Defensively, not that good. Offensively, terrible. So if they're able to do it, they should get some production out of Jordy Nelson if he's playing. Des Bryant did okay for me, even though they got their asses handed to them by the Broncos. I mean, the Broncos shut down Zeke. And for all you Ezekiel Elliott fans out there, he had 8 carries for 9 yards. He was on an 8-game streak of 80-plus yard running, and he goes into Denver and gets shut out. And Trevor Siemian was tossing touchdowns all over that defense. So I think the Dallas Cowboys took a step back from last year. Offensively, they did okay against the Giants, but the Giants aren't that good. They really aren't. They aren't good on offense. They're not doing anything productive. They don't have anything other than Odell, but he's hurt. Then that whole offense has gone to shit. And defensively, they're young. They're still making mistakes, so maybe they'll get it together. I thought they'd be a lot better than what they're playing right now. I really did. But, so there's a lot of things I'm looking at too. I'm probably going to start Phillip Rivers over Mariota this week. I don't like Mariota's matchup in Seattle, even though it's at home. And usually the home team does well on Seattle pass defense, but I think the defense is stepping up this year, and it's going to cause some problems. Maybe the ground game will be a little bit more effective, but we'll see. However, I just don't feel comfortable with that matchup, and I take Phillip Rivers traveling here against Kansas City. Now, that's another tough matchup, but Phillip Rivers, I think he's one of the most underrated quarterbacks here in the NFL. Now, again, they lost to Miami, but he still had 330 yards. He had a passing touchdown. He had a good game. He didn't have an interception. It was just the defense. It was a close game. It was 19-17, so it's not like they got blown out. It was right there at the very end. But he's playing well, and he's got weapons. He's got Keenan Allen. He had Antonio Gage just passed a tight end touchdown record. He just passed Tony Gonzalez's record. So that he's still got Antonio Gates. Antonio Gates has been playing there forever, and he's still productive at his age at tight end. He's just that fucking good. He's probably going to go down one of the best tight ends ever in the NFL. So he's still got weapons. They've got a young defense that is improving. So I think that's a good matchup for me. I'm going to take Phillip Rivers. Kansas City, though. Kansas City. Now, I got a lot of Kansas. Well, I don't have a lot. I have Tyreek Hill playing. Tyreek Hill didn't have a great game against Philadelphia. I thought he'd be a little bit more productive. Again, Kareem Hunt. Whoever got Kareem Hunt, you guys are lucky sons of bitches. I have him in another league, and he tore it up for me again. And so maybe he'll slow down. I'm hoping as long as when I play Rory, I hope he slows down a bit. For my other league, he's solid. If he gets like 10 points, I'll be okay. These 28 points, these 25 points, or not 20-plus points for Kareem Hunt, as long as I'm not playing Rory, I'm okay with because it affects me in the other league and it makes it good. But when I play Rory, I don't want him to see him do that. 80 yards with no touchdowns, that's good for me. 8 points, I'll take that. That'll help bigger in my other league because he put up 50 points in the other league for me. So we do PPR. That's what we are not doing PPR. It's more touchdowns based league. So it is harder to get points. So you got to be able to score. So that matchup, I got beat by 24. I was projected like 86. He was projected 76. My guys underplayed. His plays overplayed. Henry had a good game. Jeffrey, Nelson, he had out of his, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 spots, 6 of them were over 15. Well, 6 of them were over double digits. Goskowski was 12, but everybody else was over 15. So right there, he had good production and came out of play. As we're looking through our other matchups, Bella, check yourself, had a big one. JT had a big game. He put 104 up against Mark. He had 66. His big players, Gurley finally showed up. He had Carr and Gurley carry the load over 20 points. Then he had Hogan and his flex. Hogan in my other league did well as well. Not Martavis Bryant, but Bryant, the kicker from Atlanta. Matt Bryant did well. He's a productive kicker. Anybody on Atlanta, on my other league, I've got all Atlanta offense. So Julio, Matt Ryan, Freeman, Coleman, Sanu. Put this in perspective. I went into the matchup. It was about 210, almost tied before that Green Bay Atlanta game. And I loaded up on Atlanta and Green Bay. I knew those were my offensive powerhouse teams. Rodgers going to put me up points. I didn't get Jordy Nelson. Someone stole him in front of me. But I was able to pick up Cobb, and I was able to pick up Devontae Adams. So I was able to get some receivers from Green Bay, so that helped. And then Atlanta, again, I just loaded up on Atlanta offense. I'm putting my chips in on Atlanta this year. I don't even know. I don't really care if they play in the Super Bowl. I think they've got a really good shot. I think if Seattle fixes their offensive line, they can get the running game going with Chris Carson and Rawls. And I don't see Eddie Lacy being a factor. He just isn't. I don't think he's even close to being where he was a couple of years ago. There's too many injuries and there's too many things going on with him that it's not clicking. But if they get that running game and start opening up that, so they opens up the passing game, Jimmy Graham's hurt. Jimmy Graham's not a good fit for Seattle. He's a spectacular playmaker. He makes a lot of plays. He can get you red zone touchdowns. But in that offense is set on getting run production. When the running is good, the offense is good. You can look at much as Russell Wilson. 75% of his throws, he's on the ground running to throw the ball. So he's not in the pocket because he can't be in the pocket. That offensive line lets too many people in. It just is not clicking. And the offensive line gets better throughout the season. That's always the case. So once you get towards week 9, week 10, you start seeing the offensive line start holding their guys. Well, not holding, but start giving some time to Wilson to be able to get those passes going. Then the offense starts going. Again, I don't trust Seattle in fantasy football. I never have. They don't have a consistent scoring threat. Russell Wilson at quarterback's probably the closest thing, but again, I usually don't take him. Same with Doug Baldwin. Baldwin has good games here and there. He's not consistent enough in a league with touchdowns. PPR, he's great. But for a touchdown-based league, he's not a great fit. Or just more consistent. He's a flex guy. He's not a starter. I think in a PPR, he's a starter for sure. But he's not a consistent 10-point receiver. And there's not many. I mean, he's a good play. You can start him and have him for all year, but he's not going to jump out with you stat-wise like a Julio Jones or a Odell Beckham Jr., nothing like that. But again, I stay away from Seattle as much as I can. Other than the defense is usually one I pick up because it's pretty solid and it's pretty consistent points. But Chris Carson was my last round pick, and I think he's going to be productive. And he had 25 carries for 93 yards against a tough defense. You can say all you want about San Francisco, it's a pretty tough defense. And I think the direction they're going, once they get their quarterback piece, Kyle Shanahan's a fucking good coach. And offensively, he's an offensive guru. And I think he and John Lynch are the right fit for San Francisco to start rebuilding that. To maybe not to the time of Harbaugh was there, but at least to a competitive team in the West. That is what they're searching for. And if you don't know Kyle Shanahan, you just look at the Atlanta offense last year because he was the offensive coordinator, and you can just see how good he was. And pretty much he's been in there for about 10 years, and he's been progressing ever since. So he's the guy that I think is a really good fit. And you can see he had a good game plan against Seattle. So, again, we're back here. Yo Belichick yourself, 104-66 over the one guy CTA. So JT over Mark. Next matchup, Sacco and Turner Edwards is putting up a lot of points, and his team just went off this week. Mike Evans had a big game. Gronkowski finally had a big game. Martavius Bryant, Crabtree. I mean, looking at his lineup, Matt Ryan, 15 points, respectable. Gillislee, 13 points for New England. He's a touchdown machine. Bernard, not there for Cincinnati. Offense, again, bad. Crabtree, Oakland, that offense is good, really good. Probably one of the best in the NFL. And they played New York, who they destroyed. Martavius Bryant, another big offensive team in Pittsburgh. Martavius Bryant finally not suspended. And he's being productive like he was before the suspensions. And then you have Gronk. Gronk was playing. He's hurt next week, but he had a big game against New Orleans. Evans had another big game, and then he settled out. So, I mean, other than the fact that Bernard put up about 3 points, everybody else he had two other players under 10, and then everybody else was hovering around that 15, and Crabtree had 26. So he was loaded. Eli Manning was the only one. His bench kind of weak. He does have Gates. He had the touchdown for 11 yards. So he did have that. But other than that, his bench is a little bit weak. And then, I mean, this was probably our best matchup as of point-wise. 120-93, and then it was Rory of Old Man Wins Again. He had Roethlisberger and Kareem Hunt, again, 23 points. Julio Jones had 11. And then Suckup had 13, another kicker that I have in my other league that's good. He's got a lot of defenses. He's loading up on quarterbacks and defenses. Marquise Lee, Blake Bortles. He's got some depth. But again, this league, we're trying to get everything going here early. Next one, we had Rolling Blunts taking on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So Lindsay versus my brother Charlie. Charlie won that one by quite a bit. And looking at her team, she had Tom Brady, who had a big game, 447 passing yards, 3 touchdowns for just about 31 points. Then Terrence West was the only other person over 10 points. And then her Zach Ertz played well. He didn't get a touchdown against KC. That was a big thing that went against him. But her team is just struggling. And when you look at it, other than Chris Thompson on her bench, who had a big game for Washington, she's got Edelman, who's out for the year. I don't know why she still has him there. Blunt, who didn't play. Dalton's not good this year. Ted Ginn and Doxson. So she's got a lot of problems on her bench. So we'll see if she's able to fix that. But other than that, strong team, not really. And Hilton's not going to be productive unless Andrew Luck is there. And again, he's behind schedule. I read a report that he's going to be out for 3 to 4 more weeks. So I was thinking about picking him up maybe just to kind of stash him. But we'll see. And now looking at it, we have Parker's Team Fuck You. 52, just under 53 points to Legion of 12s. Daniel's 2-0, but he's been playing some weak competition. Daniel just won this one by about 3 points. And looking at it, Boswell, his big kicker for Pittsburgh. He had Jason Witten, 15 points. And then everybody else, he's starting Deshaun Kaiser. He had 1 point. Howard had 0 points. Cook had 6, and Landry had 7. Everybody else is under 5 points. So his team's pretty weak. Now he's 2-0. So again, early week, you're going to have matchups where you're going to have two shitty teams playing against each other and not going to be any production, and you're going to get wins. That's fantasy football. So we'll see once he goes against some of these higher-powered teams and to a little bit bigger matchups. Our next one, we had the Mississippi Motherfuckers versus Car Ramrod. Kind of a blowout, 76-49. Mississippi Motherfuckers won that one. Nick gets his first win. His big player was Travis Kelce, had 16, just over 16 points on the bench. Carson Wentz had a big game, 25, so he decided to go with Cam Newton instead of Wentz. He was telling me that was his big problem. He wanted to do that, but he still got the win. That's all that really matters here. It doesn't matter how you get it, as long as you do get it. Car Ramrod, Drew Brees was a big scorer, 22, and then he had Russell Wilson on his bench with 15. Everybody else, he is stuck because he has David Johnson, and that was his first-round pick, and he's out for, until December. So pretty much most of the season, week 12 or 13. So we'll see if he stashes him or gets rid of him, and then if he's able to be productive. But on Arizona, they don't have a strong line, so it's a scary deal for running back, especially when they're going to ask for to produce a lot on offense. Like when Ben Roethlisberger was out and they had Le'Veon Bell, and they just gave him the ball. Either they didn't trust their quarterback. They brought in Landry Jones, and they had Michael Vick, but those guys weren't going to pass the ball at the way of Ben Roethlisberger, so that took Antonio Brown out of the game pretty much. So they were going to run the ball about 30 times with Bell. When you do that, team's going to find that defense, and they're going to be, okay, well, they can't pass it. They don't have a guy that's going to make those throws, so we don't have to worry about the pass game. We're going to load up. We'll put 7, even 9 in the box at times and come at that run game because we know Bell's the guy who's going to get the ball. He's either going to be in a wildcat, or they're going to do a little short check down passes to him, or they're just going to hand it off to him. So he's going to get the ball a lot. And so we're going to make sure that he's got 3 or 4 guys on him all the time, so he's not going to be able to beat us that way. That's the same situation with Arizona. I don't trust Palmer. He's not mobile in the pocket, and the offensive line's not good. They did get a win against Indiana. Indiana's not good this year. Even with Andrew Luck, they're still not a good team. So we'll see how they do, but that's the issue of Johnson. He got hit, and he's on the IR, so now Arizona's struggling offensively. They played Indiana again, but once they get into this North NFC West Conference schedule, they could have a rough patch. Now looking at our last matchup, Milk Moose. Michael had 100 points, just under 101. Mouse Rat Colby had 90 points. So a closer matchup, high-powered, close matchup. Looking at it, Michael had a good week. His weakest performer was Curran Galladay, who came in for Detroit, or Kenny Galladay came in to Detroit. He had 0.8 points. And then everybody else pretty solid. Jamal Charles for Dallas, he had 46 yards, 5 points. That's not too bad in a game like that. Those ones matter. Tyrod Taylor had 11. Devontae Freeman, again, another big play, 22 points. Devontae Adams had 15 points. Delaney Walker, tight end, had 12. Carlos Hyde had about 15 in the Chiefs' defense. So he's pretty solid. And you're pretty solid when you've got Jay Ajayi on your bench. And he's got Tariq Cohen, who didn't do too bad. And then Jay Cutler sitting down there as well. For Colby, the big player that he did not put in, but his receivers played all well. So, it wouldn't have made a big difference. Allen Hurts had 15. He had 3 receivers, but his 3 receivers, all about 10. Well, he could have stuck in there with Benjamin. But LaShawn McCoy had a uncharacteristically bad characteristically I fucked up that word. He played out of himself, and he only had 34 receiving yards and 9 rushing yards against Carolina. Carolina's a good defense, so I don't hold it too much against him, but it was probably our best matchup, either this one or the one of Rory and Turner. Well, this one's a little bit closer, not so much lopsided. But those are our results here, and we'll have more. We'll be up this. We'll have more to next Tuesday morning. We'll update you guys on this week. So right now, again, looking through our league, as I can get back here. But our scoreboard, as we look back, oh, that's my scoreboard. Oh, let's see. Oh, that's mine. Yeah, my other league, I dominated. I won 366 to 258. So that was the big thing for my team. But again, looking at our league for week 2, our results right now, sitting in our first spot is the Sacco. Then followed him by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's Charlie. So Turner's at 1. Charlie's at 2. Daniel's at 3. I don't expect him to be at 3. I think he's going to lose in the next couple matchups. Michael's at 4. Henry is at 5. JT at 6. I'm at 7. 8, we have Rory. 9, we have Colby. 10, we have Mark. Nick bumps up 3 spots to 11. Parker sits at 12. Lindsay at 13. And JC at 14. So that's our that is our results as of this week, and that is our standings through our fantasy football league. Our next week matchups, we will have me versus Mark. Then Rory will take on Henry. Charlie will take on JT. Daniel will take on Turner. See, that's the big. I don't see. We have 2-0 guys going against each other, so I don't see Daniel making out of that matchup unless his team goes off. But looking at his team, comparing it to Turner's, I don't see it being close. And then we'll have JC taking on Lindsay. Colby will take on Parker, and then Michael will take on Nick. So that's our schedule upcoming for this week. So we'll have you guys updated on our fantasy football as of next Tuesday. We'll have our next week 3 results. And then we'll be back. We'll be back this Sunday with the J2C show. As the last week or two, we've had a lot of things going on, Pendleton Roundup wise. If you're listening, you know the Pendleton Roundup. Yeah, that shit gets crazy. So Monday or a Sunday Monday, people are recovering a couple days after Roundup. But we'll be back getting this thing got going here this Sunday. We'll have a show for you guys. And then we'll be back to our weekly basis. Again, this last couple weeks have been kind of crazy. Especially for me, we're getting into football, and so every week I'm out calling games. Remember, you guys can tune in to me. Listen to me call high school football on 1490 and 99.7 ESPN Walla Walla. You can also go online. We've got the live stream. If you don't get the radio signal, you can go on the live stream at mycolumbiabasin.com and click 1490. In 2 weeks, I'll be heading down to Redmond to call the Pendleton game. So you'll be able to listen to me on the Ticket 1240 KTIX and 103.1 FM. Or as well, you can go online to My Columbia Basin, and you can listen to us online on the instant stream as well. Again, those are Friday night at 7. Or you can look at Facebook. You can look at my personal page, Curran Holdman, and I'll have the link up as well before the kickoff. So make sure to tune in for that. And again, we'll be back with a J2C show this Sunday. We'll have a show for you guys. We'll have JC and JT will be all back, all 3 of us, and then we'll have the addition of Nick from our fantasy football league, Nick Creason. He's going to join us. And up this Sunday, what we'll have is we're going to talk a little bit more fantasy football. It'll be nice to get the other guys in there, and we'll converse about our fantasy football because it's a big thing for us right now, and we're really excited about it. And so we love talking football against each other. And more importantly, we like talking shit about our football teams to each other. So that's a big thing. And also we're going to come back and we'll have a top 5 countdown of our top 5 sport movies. Kind of the kickoff, the big sports seasons as it's going on right now here this fall. So we'll have that all this Sunday for you guys. So make sure to tune in for that as well. This is Curran Holdman. You've been listening to the Fantasy Football Sports Update here on the J2C Show.